Alright guys, this video is to talk about Shorekeeper, and more specifically about major issues in her kit that should be talked about, and hopefully the developers can be aware of it. And we can also address some mistranslations in her kit at the same time. And by the way, if you guys want to keep being updated on everything Wuthering Waves, make sure to like, subscribe, put those notifications on, where we cover this game 24/7. But okay, let's address the big problem right away. Shorekeeper needs a sizable reduction in her energy regen increase requirements on the ultimate team buffs prior to release. Otherwise, she's going to be really difficult to build optimally for most players, and that's even if you get her signature weapon, providing her a ton of energy regen. And here is why. So we need to talk about Shorekeeper's ultimate. Shorekeeper's ultimate has 3 different stages, all providing effects to your team that also stacks on top of each other. So the first stage provides healing, the second stage is 10% crit rate, and the third stage is actually a 20% attack buff to your team, which I might as well address this now. The mistranslation on the third stage. So the English translation said that it was a 20% crit rate instead of 20% attack, giving us a total of 30% crit rate to your whole team, which does sound insane, but turns out it's a 20% attack buff, which is still very good, not as cracked as giving 30% crit rate to your team, but that is still a very good ultimate. The ultimate will be healing, giving crit rate, and buffing attack to your whole team. It's a very good ult, nothing too crazy. The 10% crit rate buff is kinda low in my opinion. Let me know what you guys think. I was hoping for a bit more, at least 15%, max 20%. But yeah, that is not the main issue, guys. So the main issue here, and why I'm mostly making this video, is the energy regen required needed to get full value out of this ultimate. The way this works is that for every 20% of extra ER Shorekeeper has of extra energy regen, it equals to 1% crit rate and 2% attack for the domain buffs, which means you will need to somehow get 200% energy regen on top of her 100% base energy regen. To fully get the support buffs, a total of 300% is not easy to get. Hopefully this part of the translation is just wrong, or they do fix it soon. This is just the beta after all, but her needing a 200% total energy regen instead of 300% will be a lot better. But yeah, it is in the beta right now. We can definitely expect some changes to be made. Hopefully they do change this. This needs to be changed really bad. But let's say she does need 300% ER. Assuming you pull her signature weapon, which provides a 70% ER, then 10% from her inherent skill, another 10% from the new echo, and let's say you run 2 free cost echoes with the energy regen main stat, which would give you about 64% energy regen, you're still gonna need about 39% from the substats, which sounds absurd. You will still need very high rolls on the substats for energy regen on basically all the echoes. And yeah, that's also taking into account that you pull her weapon, which you also use 2 free cost echoes with energy regen main stat, which will bring your damage down overall. So yeah, at surface value, she was looking like a crazy support. She was looking like the best support in the game, but they put way too many restrictions on her kit that was easy to miss. So we talked about the biggest issue in her energy regen requirement. We can also discuss a few other things that can potentially be fixed to make her more optimal. They aren't as much of a problem, but it still brings her value down by a bit. So the first thing is, she needs a good amount of field time. So as you know, the domain has 3 different stages, so you will need to stack up and use the intro skills of your other party members to upgrade the stage. So it seems they did want to make her deal some damage, but with the high ER requirements and her having the energy regen main stat on her weapon, and since you will also have to focus on energy regen a lot, that is going to hold her back on damage quite a bit. She's not going to have a lot of room to have crit rate and crit damage builds to work with. And I do believe her stats right now scale on HP. But yeah guys, if you ask me, Does Verina get power crept by this unit? I would say no, she's more of a Baizi power creep. You will still need Verina. Verina is still a fantastic support. Her buffs are basically just like Verina, except all Shorekeeper does is she needs more field time and she provides more crit rate. So that just proves how Verina is still insane to this day. I don't think she's going to be leaving anytime soon, unless they really target Verina to get her out and get her replaced. But right now, she's way too useful. She doesn't have conditions like Shorekeeper. She just goes in the battlefield for like 2 seconds, pops her skills and stuff, goes right back out. Shorekeeper, you need to stay in the field for a while. You got a domain. We can also talk about the ultimate. So the ultimate has a radius with her ultimate, which could also be a problem fighting highly mobile enemies that go out of her domain. And also, instead, they decided to sell the solution in her E1, which I don't like games doing this when they do a problem and they sell the solution into getting more copies of the character. So if you didn't know, the E1 provides more range and duration in her ultimate. And to also mention her inherent skills, they are not that good. After going back on it, a one-time revive every 10 minutes is not that crazy. It's still very useful as a one-time thing, but it's the other inherent skill that I have a problem about. It's a measly 10% energy regen for herself and a rover, which is not very good. I would prefer that the buffs are more to herself instead of trying to buff another character directly. It's still nice. They could have added a little bit more energy regen in my opinion, especially with the amount that she needs. But yeah guys, you would think that with all these conditions on Shorekeeper, she would have way better buffs. Like that 40% crit rate mistranslation would honestly make sense in this scenario, with her ultimate having a limited range and doing all this work to get at the third stage of the ultimate. It would make sense, but right now, the only thing she has over Verina is the 10% crit rate. But don't get me wrong, she still have massive value as a support. She's still looking really good. If you like the character and you really need a support, she's still going to be like a top pick right now. The fact that she's closer to Verina is not a bad thing as well, as Verina is just such a cracked character. And yeah guys, she still have massive value. Some parts of her kit are underwhelming as the first 5-star buff and healer. But remember guys, this is only the start of the beta after all. If we get any changes and updates on this, I got you guys covered. I'm still very excited for this character. I will be pulling no matter what. Love her design. And bring down the energy regen requirements, she will be looking perfect. That is all for this video. Thanks for watching and see you all in the next one.